Hello. We're having conversations with Dr. Bhaskara Rao on the theme Rejuvenating Our Republic, Mission 2050. In this series of discussions, we are talking about various issues that can help rejuvenate our nation. Dr. Rao, who is an eminent social scientist and author, has over 50 years of experience in monitoring, studying, writing about various concerns related to the governance and social issues and dilemmas that our nation faces. We have been talking in this series, this is part second of the one titled We the People. When we say we the people, how it has been implemented in practice has been through a very evolving system of elections in our country. We were talking with Dr. Bhaskara Rao about how the election system in our country evolved and what is hampering in improving better representation of people in the whole system of governance and also the elections. So let's continue the discussion to see and understand better how we can improve and build on the concept of we the people. Dr. Rao, thank you once again, and let's start again from where we left behind in an earlier episode on what is hindering or what are the barriers that are hampering us to put in practice the concept of we the people in the elections systems that we have evolved till date in the last 17 or 18 elections that we've had and the 75 years of our republic.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Vasanti. I think you have rightly taken up this series very timely. Mission 2050 is a very good concept, good program, and the topics that you have taken are very relevant and they are priority. Now 2050 is 25 years from now, which in terms of electoral context, there may be 5 or 6 general elections from now to 2050, which means, do we have same kind of elections that we have been having in the last 17 elections that we had and the one we are going to have now in the next 2, 3, 4 months? The dilemma or the question before us is that, which means you have very rightly what hinders the process, why we were not able to get the representative character of people be reflected in the governance of this country is the question. Now come to the understand it, we'll need a lot of time, but I will cut short. First and foremost is the behavior, or rather our understanding of what elections is all about. Our expectations of the elections is that we have a government of people's representation which meets the aspirations of the people, the expectations of the people. Whereas it has, after 17 general elections, it has become more of a competitive. Winning election is a means and end, rather than as a means only for a good governance or for taking care of the aspirations of the people and the problems as and when they occur. Instead of that, we got into a wrong track of solo view of election. That is me, my party, which has taken us to a battleground idea where people are looking at elections as a fight, when it is in fact a collaborative way of coming together to address the problems of the people, addressing them together. Because problems of country of this magnitude, of this complexity, can't be addressed by any one person or one party. They have to be a cooperative outlook. This outlook is what first and foremost is a hindrance.
Okay.
So this is what we need to change in the next 5 to 6 elections. If we succeed even a bit in changing the outlook about elections itself, in terms of that they are only a means, not an end, and they are collaborative, that we need to come together, which means the way we contest, the way we campaign has to be more jointly, not accusing, not in allegation, you are a failure of each other. Rather than together, let us do this, let us achieve this, accomplish this.
Okay.
That outlook is what we need to bring back into the electoral system.
Okay.
So I look at the electoral system from that point of view.
Okay.
So for that, if you really look at it, I know change in the outlook is very difficult in people of this diversity. But if you see COVID, after the COVID, how this country has adopted and quickly changed over.
Yes.
Outlooks are changed of people, of no matter whether you are a poor or rich, urban, rural, everybody has coped with it,
Yes.
adjusted to it.
Yes.
So that kind of outlook or that kind of change is what is needed in the context of the elections. Now also look at it differently. We have so swiftly the voting age for eligibility was 21 years. We shifted to 18 years with so swiftly, so quickly, with no fuss about it. Everybody liked it. That was 30 years ago. And now similarly,
EVMs.
we have changed from ballot paper for 30 years to EVM,
Yes.
which very few countries in the world have gone so quickly and so well, admirably, as India has done.
Right.
So why we can't, having done such a wonderful initiatives, taken wonderful initiatives, why we can't continue those initiatives, is what my concern is.
Okay.
Now, luckily, our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, in the last Independence Day, from the Red Fort, he has given a very interesting call to the nation that let us work together. Was one of his
Call to the nation.
call to the nation was that let us work together in the next 20. He has specified the next 25 years.
Okay.
I was very happy when I heard this, but then have we followed it up?
Yes.
Now what I am trying to do in this program through you is, Dr. Vasanthi, is even if you take up a few, I have several suggestions. None of them require constitutional amendments, big lengthy process of change. Quickly, with one administrative decision in the government, by the civic society, by the media,
It can be addressed.
by the academics, these can be addressed. This is a very complex, requires a lengthy discussion. But to cut short, I have just recently brought out a book called Next Big Game Changer of Elections in India, which will bring the kind of change that India needs in the next 25 years.
Okay.
Now, this discusses at length the dilemma, the hindrances that have come in the way of people's representation, and the what I call the development, the democracy and governance. The three are together, and we need to address the three. Elections is one good way, reliable way of addressing all the three in one go. So from that angle, if you see, in the previous episode, I have talked about some of the critical concerns coming in the way as a dilemma.
Okay.
Now, I just to quickly remind, first and foremost is the money become guzzler. The elections have become a guzzlers of quick money to spend, both as a note for vote or dole out
for campaigning,
for the vote as a quid pro.
Yes.
And then the big outside forces have come. In fact, I have very interesting facts to bring, first time perhaps, that in 2014 election and 2019 election, just take the two examples of how people today, 70% of the members of the parliament today, right now in 2023, were elected for the elections with money given by the corporates in India and outside.
Wow.
70%. In fact, there are only 19 MPs in the parliament today who have won the election with their money.
My God.
What do you expect them to represent? Whom do they represent?
Like, definitely not we the people.
Even the party which was funding nearly 40% of the MPs, the contesting candidates earlier in 2014, has now come down to 17%.
Wow.
In other words, parties are collecting more money and keeping with them.
Wow.
They become the money collectors more rather than taking to the welfare service of the people, representing the aspirations of the people. So, most important thing here, which is the voters themselves have to be participants by contributing. What I call crowd funding.
Yes.
What is called crowd funding means people have to 1 rupee.
Each
Need
membership.
not be 1 crore. Now they're after 1 crore rather than 1 rupee. So this has to be changed. This is one of the mindset or the outlook of the voter as well as the candidates and the parties. All of them.
Dr. Rao, you talked about very startling facts and figures, and actually quite scary situation in terms of representation of the governance of our republic. If there are so many elected representatives who are sponsored by the big companies of our nation, how are they representing, for example, the poor, the vulnerable, and the diversity of our country? That is a scary thing. So I'm sure in your book and elsewhere also you've done an analysis on what are the correctives that can make a difference. And you mentioned briefly about how certain correctives don't need big changes, but simple administrative decision making about making the change happen and ensuring that that representation and that idea of we the people is brought back into regenerating our nations. So please share some of your suggestions on making these correctives happen at least in the next 25 years.
I will start first with the startling fact that today in 2023, last 2 elections, every stakeholder in the elections in India today wants election duration be spread as long as possible. You know why? Because they're making money. Political parties want it stretched as long as possible. They want the elections 2 months, 3 months. There are elections every time because they make more money. Voter wants more because they're paid money. Candidates make contribution of the corporates coming to them. Media
Loves it.
Media loves it. It's a festival time for them. They're making more money from not only advertisements, but political parties, candidates, all of them are. So, first and foremost thing is the duration of the elections. You will be shocked to know that until 1998 election, we had 3 phases and elections were complete in 24 days. nationwide. Why 2014 and 2019, the last two elections, we had 7 phases of election, 8 phases of election, stretched over 35, 38 days. In one state, elections took place 8 phases.
Wow.
If you go into the details of that, you will have shocking
Revelation.
how the political leaders and political parties and the media have ganged up, depriving the people's representation.
Very scary.
So first and foremost is today, think of, as I said, 1998 we had 3 phases and 23 days.
Yes.
We completed the electoral process. Since then, this country made a tremendous progress
In technology.
in every respect, in technology, or transport communication, people's efficiencies, education levels of the voter. In every respect, this country has progressed so well, so much. So ideally, I am convinced after extensive study that we can complete the electoral process in 2 phases and in 1 fortnight.
Wow.
I challenge how it is possible. I have worked out the details from nomination time to the electoral result counting time. It will not take more than maximum 14 days, and the entire country we can complete in 2 phases.
But
Instead of 8 phases and 35 days. So first and foremost, I repeat, the duration of the elections need to be
reduced.
rescheduled, looked into it by all the stakeholders, including the media, news media. That's the number one. Number two is the Election Commission of India, the independent authority, is the greatest hope and did a tremendous, it is a pride of all of us,
Yes.
should be pride of all of us. That is the kind of job they did first several elections. And how suddenly it has become,
Toothless.
it has come under the criticism of every stakeholder. Because they have succumbed to the pressures, pulls and pressures of the incumbent governments. Well, I will not go into the details of that. I have mentioned in my book what led to this decline in the stature and significance of the Election Commission. So the Election Commission need to be, in fact, the Supreme Court has come to their risk. They have given twice, reassert, and yet they are not. There is no evidence of that. So I have no hesitation in reiterating or repeating that Election Commission of India need to be repositioned to its pride of place. We can't avoid to remembering Session, the Chief Election Commissioner of India. What a great job he has done. What a great legacy he left behind.
Right.
There are other commissioners
Absolutely.
as well, not just the Session alone. Even now there are good people in the commission. They could do as well. Even today, I have no doubt about it. They have excellent track record in their respect to previous jobs. They could as well do now, provided they are allowed. That's the number two. Number three is the code of conduct. It's an amazing magic that we have come up so early in the electoral system. Now we need to gear this up. We've forgotten that this is code of conduct was evolved by all political parties together. It is not election commission sitting in their air-conditioned rooms. No. It is all political parties have come together. What I am now suggesting is that they should involve the media, the civil society, the educationalists, many more players in this evolving,
Implementing it.
implementing even before implementing, in evolving the code itself.
Okay.
This code needs to be rewritten.
Oh, it's been
because it's outdated. As we discussed in the previous episode, that's a written. We are now a different set of voters, below 30%, 30 years age group.
demography has changed.
The demography has changed so much, so that we need a different kind of. And now we have identified in the 17 general elections a certain problems. How overcome these? So, taking all these, we need to rewrite the code of conduct of the candidates, parties, and the media.
Very important.
Today, the media is not included.
But there are certain guidelines for the
The
media.
guidelines are different from code. Code is now, Supreme Court has recognized the code of the Election Commission as obligatory. So the code need to be relied far more, it need to be strengthened, it need to be made more meaningful, it need to be made more practicable and more vigilance in terms of its implementation. As you rightly said, Dr. Vasanthi, that the civil society, the academicians, the independent sections of the society need to be involved in its implementation. Today, they have only passive role, like the ADR,
The independent.
many other election watch. They have done a great job. But what difference they made? If you look at last 30 years, we can't show, but they brought up certain facts to the attention of the nation. But the outcome is not there because of that. The fourth is the incumbency in the constitution. There is no mention of any additional or extra power or extra responsibility to the incumbent government in terms of their role in the electoral process, except that they need to support the independent authority, that is Election Commission, by way of giving them the police protection or the defense support, the funding that they need. In that respect, they have a responsibility.
Right.
But not in terms of telling them what they should do or when they should do or how they should do. Today, the half or more than half of the problems of the electoral process and for which the Election Commission is taking the blame are because of the incumbents' interventions, involvement, informally. Why ministers in the union government has to go by a special plane to a municipal election in some faraway state, which none of these ministers are from that municipality or that state, and yet they go, 12 ministers go to a municipal election. Just give an example. I can mention many examples where ministers go to influence the voters, apart from the schemes and schemes and schemes that they come up with just before the election and misusing the many government agencies, all that. So the role of the incumbent government, its role need to be lot more transparent, lot more responsible. They have to set good examples. When Morarji Desai has become the Prime Minister, in a short period, he tried to do that. He did that. He corrected what Mrs. Indira Gandhi tried to do. First thing he did was that. So, the current government has ample opportunity to do wonders in this country. The current Prime Minister has ample opportunity and he is doing that. He is trying to do that. He can do a lot more reforms. He has all. So my other point is the local panchayats, the village panchayats, the samiti and the jilla panchayats need not be on party basis. Elections there need not be on party lines. There should be
individual
independent candidates. They may belong to a party, but the election contest should not be on party lines. This is very, very important because wherever the parties have gone with their candidates, the corruption, the development, all of them have crippled.
Followed.
All of them have suffered. There is ample evidence, number of studies are there by me as well as so many other people in this country, including the government own departments, have brought out that wherever the electoral process have reached high schools, education is suffering today because of the same reason. So we need to keep the political parties little bit away from responsible functioning of the institutions. Institutions need to be kept away from this. There are many other suggestions that I have, but these are the 6 most important to elevate the stature and make the electoral system bring the fundamental changes that are expected from out of it for making the elections as a representative of people to their aspirations of the current demographic voters who are below 30 years age group.
Yep.
And many of them have not heard of a previous system. So we have a very good, this government has an ample, very good opportunity to bring these changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rao, once again for such startling revelations about the lessons and the dilemmas and the concerns that are hampering or hindering in better representation of the concept of we the people in the electoral process that we have evolved over the years. But more importantly, I'm very impressed, and I think there are many more in your book, The Next Big Game Changers of Elections in India, where you talk about many things, and I think you have more than 10 points here, but today you've elaborated and talked about at least few key concepts or outlooks that we can immediately address that can help in revamping the republic and regenerating the republic, at least and by the time we reach 2050. That has been really very interesting to listen to you. So thank you once again, and please do join us for continuing this series. In the next episode, we will be talking a little bit more on the 5th pillar, which we can depend on rejuvenating the republic, which is the civil activism or civil society. Till then, thank you, and do join us later on. Bye-bye.